Hello, this video is learning to see the values on the sphere and learn to use the 5-value system to draw or paint other similar round objects. Many things it's round in this world, like related to humans, including head, nose, deltoid muscles, etc. Fruits. Many fruits are roundish, isn't it? And tool, toy, and many more. As we see, the picture has lots of gray color on the back, so that's why I will prime the gray color, a light gray color, on the whole canvas first, before I draw the outlines. I draw a cross to help me draw this circle. You can say that is the plus sign or is two equal diameter across right on the center point. After I draw the outlines, I fill in the dark gray color on the shadow area. So what is the 5-value system in art? How are we gonna use this system to draw or paint? If I define this 5-value system in the simple way is, an art theory helps us to see the light and dark on all objects. This is an acrylic painting, so I will use a floating medium like this one from folkart to smooth out the paint. If you only use the water to thinning out the paint, sometimes it's okay, but keep this in mind, the water will thinning out the adhesive in the paint also, so sometimes the paint will not easy to stick on your canvas. So I will prefer to use these floating mediums as my thinner for this paint. Learn to see the subtle change of the value. It's very important because sometimes the value it just slightly shift a little bit, but we can't ignore it. To draw realistically, value is the key. Value is everything. So the 5-value systems, it's very important to know to draw realistically. So far, I only use gray and white to paint the background, draw the outlines, and the shadows. Can you see the subtle change of the background? The foreground is a little bit brighter than the background. Can you find the highlight on the ball and the apple? Which is the brightest part on the objects? And where do you think is the darkest part on the painting? Is the shadow on the objects? Or is the shadow on the table? Now I add the black colors to darken the shadow area. If you just learn to paint acrylic, so you should pay attention to see how and when I clean the brushes, because sometimes when you're blending the color or smooth out the color, your brush need to be clean and dry. Now you see I am painting the brightest part of the ball which is called highlight, and the area surrounding the highlight is called light tones. And after the light tones, between the light tone and to the quartz shadow, which is the very dark moon shade shadow on the object, between the quartz shadow and the light shadow is the mid-tone. So we need to be careful to draw the mid-tone. Mid-tone looks like very similar value to the light tone, but it's a little bit darker. So the highlight is the brightest part, then the light tone is a little bit darker, and the mid-tone is more darker. When we're painting the transition from the mid-tone to the quartz shadow, we need to be careful because it seems like have a lot of sun change from light to dark, but we do still need to paint a smooth transition from the light to dark. Now I am painting the cast shadow, which is the shadow on the table. The hardest part is to see the reflect light. Can you tell where's the reflect light? Reflect light is right between the quartz shadow and the cast shadows. Can you find it? To draw or paint the reflect light, one thing is very important to know. The reflect light it's not dark as the quartz shadow. Also, it's not dark as like the cast shadow. Can you find the reflect light on the ball and on the apple too? So now you are seeing I am painting the quartz shadow and refining the edges on the cast shadow. So what do you think? Is the cast shadow darker or is the quartz shadow darker? The answer is we're supposed to draw the quartz shadow darker than the cast shadow. Take a real good look on the pictures. Sometimes in the picture it's a little bit hard to tell the dark and light, and the best thing is if you have a ball in the house, put the light 45 degrees shining on your ball and take a good look on the shadows. You will find out the quartz shadow is the darkest. Can you tell on the bottom of the quartz shadow, the value has shifted a little bit. It's a little bit lighter. As you see, I am painting the backgrounds. Can you tell how the value changed from the left to the right? Because the light is shining to the object from the right to the left. So can you tell the right side of the picture is brighter? So then we need to pay attention to paint the background is lighter on the right side and a little bit darker on the left side. So I am painting the reflected light now. So just a reminder, a reflected light it's gonna be a little bit lighter than the quad shadow and the cast shadow. Now let's use the knowledge that we have learned from painting the sphere to paint the apple. Because apple is also it's a roundish object, has the similar shadow like the sphere. For your practice, if you don't have an apple or you don't want to paint an apple, you are very welcome to find other roundish objects to practice this method. As long as you understand this 5-value systems, this theory, and the painting method, you are good to go. To paint the apple, I use cadmium yellow and cadmium red and cerulean blue. And I did put on some ultramarine blue, but actually I find out I didn't use the ultramarine at all. The cerulean blue would just make the shadow dark enough for me, so it's not necessary to use ultramarine. different color has different values. If you're not sure, when you're painting the apple, you're not sure the color is dark enough, you can turn the picture into black and white. So then you will see all the color, what kind of value is that. So painting acrylic, most of the time people will use a glaze method, which is just like how I painted. I paint the yellow and greenish color for underpainting colors, and I wait for it to dry a little bit. Then I paint the red, like a very thin layer of red glaze all over the apple. Of course, you need to use the floating medium to smooth out the paint, to thinning out the paint. So then you will have a little bit transparent red can glaze over the apple. So then the whole apple, it has a red on top and have a little bit green showing underneath the red. There's another glaze method. Maybe if you're interested, you can try it. It's turn the picture into black and white, especially the apples. So you will see all the value of the apple in black and white, just like how you paint the sphere, the ball. So you paint all the shadows, all the light and dark for the apple, and then because we're seeing a lot of red on the apple, then we glaze a layer of red. But make sure the black and white painting is dry first before you glaze the red on it. After the glaze is dry, now it's time to add the highlight and the rest of the color. On the top of the left side of the apple has additional reflections on the apple. That kind of a reflection is come from the ball because the ball is very nearby, so it will give it the apple have a little bit extra reflections. So that little shiny part, I use a little bit cerulean blue as the little bit white and yellow for that. But keep that in mind, that kind of reflection never brighter than the highlight or the mid-toned. So I am painting a little bit darker red beside the quartz shadow on the apples to make the smooth transaction on the apple. Remember what we talked about on the sphere. Between the midtone and the quartz shadow, we have to have a smooth transactions, like from the dark and a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter to the midtone. Same as like in the apples. So now the apple is almost done. The 5-value system, have you learned it yet? Keep that in mind. The cast shadow almost is only the cast shadow has the sharp edges. Sometimes the highlight will has a sharp edges, but mostly it will like a blur out on the edges. Same as like other like the light tone, mid tone, quartz shadows reflect like all this value all has the blurry, soft edges. But did you see I paint the cast shadow only has the sharp edges on the beginning of the shadow, and then when the shadow away from the object, it starts to have blurry edges. That's right. The cast shadow only has the sharp edges in the beginning, and then when the shadow away from the object, it will start to blurry again because that area is started to receive the light again. So keep that in mind. I hope you enjoy and learn the 5-value system to paint the round object. Next time, I will talk about the 5-value system on the cylinder shape. If you like my video, please click the like button for support, or if you like to see more of my video, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel under Iwan Chen. I will update my new video each week. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.